p.m.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to this week's episode of LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I am your host, Bronagh Morgan, and welcome to the show that we talk about what you're talking about in London, southwestern Ontario, and hey, all over the province and all over the country, people are talking about this person. I was lucky enough to get to know Arielle when you were a city councillor. And I was lucky enough to interview you when we used to do our show over Zoom. So that was a lot of fun. Hopefully we had good connection, but I know we had good connection either way. And finally, so happy to have you in the studio. So Arielle Kayabaga is my city, or not my, no, you weren't my city councillor, but you are my member of parliament because I live in London West. And been doing incredible things that I think a lot of people maybe just don't know about all of the things that you've been up to as a federal politician in the last few years. So just a pleasure. I ran into Arielle at London Abuse Women's Centre breakfast, I believe, about a month ago.
Fundraiser.
And yeah, wonderful.
Successful
fundraiser, international. Yeah, absolutely. So a fantastic event. And so lucky that we were able to get you in the studio because you've been back and forth to Ottawa and in the constituency all the time. So this is just really fortunate. So welcome to the show, Arielle Kayabaga, Member of Parliament for London West.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Bronagh. It's a pleasure to join you, I think, for the third time on your show, but first time physically in here. First time I get to see where, you spend a lot of your time.
This is the place.
So this is great. It's a great studio, and I think it's also a good platform to showcase the good stuff that's happening in London. So I also want to extend my gratitude for the showcasing that you do of the City of London and the work of the good people that are here, what they're doing. So.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to kind of share the stories of people who are, trying to work in whatever way that is within their, their skill set or the things that they're passionate about to make our community a better place. And you're one of those people, so it's a pleasure to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so for, let's say, maybe we'll just catch people up. So for those people who don't know your kind of political history, can we get like the short version of your kind of road to municipal politics and your road to Ottawa?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Arielle Kayabaga. I'm the Member of Parliament for London West, which is the west of the city. I've been elected as a Member of Parliament since 2021, and prior to that I was a City Councillor for the ward of 13, which is the downtown ward. And I was in that role from 2018 to 2021. First Black woman to be elected in both roles, and I think in the city of London, Ontario, and first person of color. And it's been a tremendous honor, to be honest. It's been a tremendous honor. It's been a burden to carry, but an honor. My role in politics really, what pushes me to get involved in politics is wanting to serve the community and figuring out different ways that we can work on policies. I like policy. I think I'm a policy nerd. I get to see where policies are not equitable and not accessible and need to be renewed and revamped. And I have had the immense honor and opportunity to work on multiple different policies that really target the core of community. And I say that because when I was running to be a city councillor, one of my biggest focus was to sort of represent the community and speak on things that regular folks, your neighbors, my neighbors, want to talk about and care about. Things like transportation, bike lanes, want to add garbage, you can add garbage in there too.
We talk about garbage a lot. We just, like,
Absolutely.
used to live here, and like, what a wonderful success that we just, well, I think it's a success. Like, I have never loved a bin more than I love my green bin.
See, the green bin, exactly. And that was a program that we voted into council when I was still on city council.
Yes.
And then like bigger things like immigration, the state of housing in our country right now. And this can be talked about at every single level of government.
Absolutely.
I do think that it's good for every government to empower cities, because cities build communities, they build cities. So to empower municipalities to partner with them to be able to provide good quality affordable housing is also a big policy that comes to the federal level as well. So they're all interconnected somehow, some way, and they just require good policies. They require a revision of policies and to make sure that we are not leaving anybody behind. The Prime Minister likes to say that he is building a Canada where nobody's left behind, and I'm a believer of that ideology of making sure that we don't leave anybody behind in our community, whether it's people of color or people who have different accessibility needs, I would say. We need to continue to work on that. So I changed platforms where I serve the City of London and Londoners and Canadians all together. And now in my role as a Member of Parliament, I don't only just touch national issues as well, I also get to participate in international work as well, which is one of the best ways that we can continue to put Canada forward and represent Canada people love Canada. Every time I go outside of the country, and of course I have to say the other London, I live in the other London, but people love Canada, and some of the work that we often complain about here is super admired outside of our borders.
Really? Like, what's an example?
Everything we do around supporting women. Our child care agreement has been a hitter across the world.
Wow.
I was recently in Munich at the Munich Security Conference where all the big security conversations are happening, and Canada was actually talked about in terms of our childcare investments and how they ensure that women are equally participating in the economy, and empowering women in the participation of our economy is one of the ways that we can secure our borders. We can ensure security, basically. So I felt really proud to be there, knowing that this is some of the work that we are pushing. People admire our work towards reconciliation with the Indigenous communities and the recognition that something happened here that was wrong and that we have to work together to rectify that. Those are the two major things that I've heard from some of the top world leaders who truly admire the work that we're doing. And in our diversity and inclusion and our mosaic country, people truly admire that. And actually some of them aspire to sort of reach some of the levels that we've reached. That does not mean that the work is done.
Well, I guess the work will never be done.
Will never be done. We have to continue to improve, and we have to see it as, this is the thing about policy and why I love policy so much. Policies are supposed to last a specific decade, and every decade, every 10 years, there should be a policy review with the input of the people who participate in that policy to sort of get a feedback on how it worked, things that didn't work, and then improve. So if all of us get into our mindset that we need to continually improve policies in everything that we do, we can continue to build a stellar country.
And, sometimes, from the perspective of me, when I'm wearing my lawyer hat, right? Like, laws that sit on the books for a very long time are really not serving anybody anymore. But I think sometimes it's difficult to explain to people when we have such pressing needs, right? People don't have homes. Some people can't afford to eat, or like they're making choices between rent and food right now, like really, really vital things. The importance of having people sit down and do this kind of policy review is so vital to having a functioning society.
Absolutely. And when you think about in the context of COVID, where this is something that we didn't expect, and it sort of transformed the way we do our everyday anything. It doesn't matter what it is, how you take the bus, how you walk on the street, how you even do public spaces, because we had to reinvent ourselves. And I think there are moments like post COVID where we have to restructure all of our systems. And sometimes we're scared because when you bring in so much change like that, it can be both good and it can also be very disruptive. So people are avert to make those big changes that, impact us, but COVID really pushed us, and it's sort of like helped
sometimes
us.
change just happens,
Yes,
and so you can react to it, or you can, I guess, plan for it, or you can roll. I guess in this case, we have to kind of roll with it.
Absolutely. And my mom would say, like, when you get to the bottom, you can only go up from there.
Yeah.
So COVID kind of pushed everybody down, and we can only go up from there. And I think this was one of those opportunities where we have to jump and seize it and make sure that we are innovative in the way that we're doing things. We're, like, for example, in Parliament, we now have hybrid model.
Right.
We're making Parliament more family friendly and making sure that, people like myself and other people, other women, other men, other, members of Parliament who also have the responsibility of being part of their family,
right,
can continue to do that and also serve their communities.
Yeah, and so vital, right? Because that perspective is so just as important as any other thing that you bring to the table.
Absolutely, and I don't think we would have had an opportunity to revise that if it hadn't been for COVID. Like, if COVID did not push us to all figure out a way to, not stock up like 338 MPs in one room together in what could have been a super spreader.
Right.
We had to realize, okay, there's going to be central, elected officials that are going to come into work, and some that can't come into work. Then how do we make them participate? How do we vote for policies? And then we had to adapt.
Yeah.
So the adapting is now going to be part of our systems and how we're doing things moving forward, because we realize the benefit of having both models where people can come in physically and people can also be online and still be effective. And it also allows MPs to be in their ridings a little bit more and do more within their ridings.
Right, and I am happy that you were able to be here today, and I'm sure our viewers are as well. And we are going to have to take a break, but I do want to hear about more what's going on in the riding, and as well as all of the work that you're doing in Ottawa and abroad as well. So please stay with us, and please stay with us, viewers, as well. We'll be chatting more with Arielle after the break.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Carbon monoxide is a deadly gas you can't see, smell, or taste.
Homes with fuel-burning appliances and/or attached garages must have working CO alarms installed outside all sleeping areas.
Don't let the silent killer get you. Install working CO alarms today.
Tune in to Money Talks with Brian Seeley. On this week's episode, we'll be speaking about effective tax management, also ways to best grow your portfolio, as well as the dreaded beer tax.
My name is Gracia Espinosa. I'm a journalist and I was born in Madrid, Spain.
Before coming here, I didn't have the opportunity to use the camera or to put the mics, because I always receive the same answer, don't touch it, you are not a professional. And I was in shock because I am a journalist, so why I cannot touch the camera, why I cannot edit a video? For me, this opportunity, this experience, this volunteer helped me to be the journalist that I wanted to be all my life.
It's wonderful because they always want to help you and they always want to teach you. And that's for me the best part.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV. I'm your host, Bronagh, and I've been having a conversation with my MP, London West MP, Arielle Kayabaga, former Ward 13 City Councillor. We've talked a little bit about, I guess, what's been going on and the things that you're passionate about in becoming a politician and all of your work in the city as well as at the federal level. Some of the things, our show is about what people are talking about, and hey, it's budget time. The federal budget coming out this month.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what's in it for London. So from your perspective.
Absolutely. So I just want to start by saying that I love that you said my MP. I like to introduce myself as your MP.
Bronagh?
So, yes, absolutely. So I love that. So budget 2024, I think is going to be a revolutionary budget. I do think that it's going to have a lot of things that are going to sort of speak to what's happening right now.
Yeah.
We just talked about the pandemic. We talked about how quickly the world shifts and how we have to continue to catch up and make sure that we are responding to the most pressing needs of our community. Budget 2024 has a housing component to it, big housing. And I think a lot of millennials and Gen Zs who have felt sort of left out into the homeownership, accessing affordable childcare are really going to feel spoken to in this budget. We are targeting building faster and quicker, more affordable homes by partnering with municipalities directly. We last year invested $74 million into our Accelerator Housing Fund, and that is meant to build housing fast in inaccessible places where people can have access to the transportation.
Yes.
And we're also incentivizing, people who are building green homes as well and doing things in a green way.
Yeah.
Because we do believe that we have to continue to protect our environment. So that's going to speak really to a big generation of people who have felt left out.
Yeah. Well, I really like how it's like you're looking at the bigger picture. Like you can build houses, but if you can't get to where you need to, so putting all those pieces together, and I'm sure your time as a municipal politician helps with that too.
I love that part because it sort of connects both worlds together for me. And understanding that in order to build quality cities, you have to partner with municipalities. You can't go over them, you can't speak at them, you can't yell at them. You have to really come into partnership with municipalities because, like I said earlier, they build cities. There's also the National Food Program, School Food Program, which is going to help children be able to have food, because we do believe that poverty in children is not acceptable in this country. But on that note, I do want to say that UNICEF Canada has also released a report that shows that Canada has gone up, and that's through the child tax benefit, which has lifted over 400,000 children out of poverty. And I don't know if you remember in 2018, Bronagh, children in London were in the highest numbers of poverty. So I think this is going to be huge for Londoners as well, to be able to access food at school. We know that times have been challenging for a lot of people, and we're really just trying to put measures in place that continue to foster the Canadians of tomorrow to have a better future and prepare them for that.
I love the concept of a school food program.
Absolutely.
So how do you put together a program like that? So logistically, you've got to be working with the school boards. You've got to be working with so many relationships. Right?
One of the things that I love about our job is that we get to partner with a lot of stakeholders, schools, organizations that provide already meals in schools. I've seen school food programs in other countries because I've done a lot of work outside Canada. Never seen one in Canada, and I was super excited to see that this is something that we're implementing. And I'm looking forward to seeing in 2025 or 2026 what the numbers are going to be in terms of poverty rates in children in Canada. I think the Prime Minister has been steady targeting this number to reduce the children that are living in poverty in Canada. And the report from last year from UNICEF is one that shows that we are in a capacity to continue to do that through the child tax benefit. And now the food program is also going to be an extra element that's going to uplift children out of poverty, coupled with, accessing housing, allowing, young people to access home ownership, building faster, more affordable units, increasing the capacity, and also making sure that municipalities can be accountable as well in participating in this program. There are some criteria that they have to meet to make sure that we have enough units across the country. And working with experts, people who understand housing, people who understand the things that are needed to happen so that we can provide the adequate homes that people need, because there's a lot of people in Canada. I've read a lot of reports from different housing experts on how much we need to build and how quickly we need to build. And I think Budget 2024 continuing to have that focus on housing, which last year's budget also had a huge focus on housing, it shows that we are listening and we are willing to do what it takes to ensure that we are meeting the needs of Canadians.
Fantastic.
I want to add one last thing and it's not the last thing that's in the budget. There's a lot of really cool things in the budget, but I think in terms of London, the mental health supports for young people is going to be also a key. I think we've seen what the pandemic has done to people and how long it lasted and the impact that it can have on young people. A lot of young people that we have today actually are, I call them pandemic young people, because they sort of grew up into the pandemic system and have had to adjust their lives.
Well, for those of us who grew up not, during a pandemic, right?
Like we went to prom, you and I.
Yeah,
right?
you think of your formative years, like my grade 8 graduation, my daughter never get to have.
Exactly.
The things that happened, like when I went to grade 9, my kids never got to have, right? So those are I empathize, to have those things kind of. You just never got to have those experiences. It's nice to know that there's an MP and that the government has this on their radar. How
I have a 14-year-old and what I would call a pandemic child.
Right.
So I do think that there's a social aspect that has been deprived of our
so
children.
Monumental.
And so supporting them, putting stronger infrastructures of mental health supports for young people is key in ensuring that Canadians can continue to be successful and we can continue to uphold the quality of life for Canadians.
Yeah, it's just you hit exactly that. That's why we talk to a young person in each of these episodes. But today, unfortunately, because of the timing, we're not going to have a young person. But I'm just so glad that you hit on the importance of so many of these policies and taking that child first approach to creating policy, even at the federal level, is so meaningful. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, look out for all the other cool things that are going to be in it. We're investing in AI, which I know is going to go speak to researchers, healthcare professionals. There's so many cool things in 2024 budget. I actually cannot wait to continue to talk to you, and I'd be happy to come back and chat with you more about the other things that are in budget, but I think it's going to speak to a lot of Canadians.
Okay, well, we do have to take a break. We've got about 5 minutes left to chat a little bit more with Arielle Kayabaga, so please stay with us and we'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
I'm for have a Holden one at 15.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Thursday.
Most people that have received treatment for drug use problems are probably going to have a lapse.
Join addictions counselor Dean Anderson for Invisible, Breaking Through the Stigma of Addiction on Rogers TV.
Scott Navarro, a producer here at Rogers TV, and I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers that we have that put on our shows. Whether that's hosts in front of the camera or volunteers behind the scenes, we couldn't do it without you, so I just want to say thanks.
Welcome back to LdnOnt TV here on Rogers TV, having a conversation with my Arielle Kayabaga. Okay, so going back to the fact, this is the show that we talk about what people are talking about here, and there really is, I don't know if anybody talks about anything more than housing, right? So just a little deeper dive into the budget and what, the goals, and I know that it's a policy-focused budget, and a lot of this policy has to do with lifting people out of being unhoused and also making housing accessible for people. I know there's stuff in here for people who rent.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Right. So we talked about, the biggest demographic, in our country right now, which is millennials and Gen Zs, and which also are super represented in the rental market.
Right.
So one of the key components of the budget is going to be protecting renters' rights, and then creating pathways for the renters to be able to become homeowners, because this has been a big concern in Canada. We've talked about it. We've talked about how owning a home has become very difficult for young people, and I would say my generation of people, and the younger generation as well, and my child and your child generation. And I think we want to remove that. I think home ownership has always been something that people can attain here in Canada, and that means that we have to build homes. We have to build fast. We have to build homes fast. With, like I said earlier, we got to partner with municipalities. We got to make sure that these homes that we're building have access to to transit. To people can do the radius of 15 minutes to get to what they need to do.
Right.
And that obviously is a very municipal part of providing housing. But we are investing. We're investing. We're invested. We're not just investing, we are invested in making sure that millennials, Gen Zs have access to, homes. They can rent. We don't have control how renting markets go, because that's a provincial component.
Right.
But I think the partnership of continuing to work with different levels of governments to ensure that everybody in Canada has access to a home, and a safe home, and an affordable home, has been, I think, the core of this budget, the budget of 2024. So we're trying to build affordable homes. We're trying to protect renters' rights. We're mindful of who is not in homes, who is not able to afford a home, who is not able to own a home. And with that kind of information, then we're making the decisions that are needed to be made so that Canadians can be in a better situation. And we're working with experts as well. And I think if you look at the last couple of weeks, everybody is doing conferences and pressers and conversations around housing, because we do believe that this is going to be a big issue that we have to tackle in Canada.
Yeah, it's a big issue to tackle, but it's just like a pleasure talking to you about it, because I really feel more optimistic.
Oh.
Because you feel optimistic too.
I do think that when you focus policy on informed, when you do informed policy and you partner with stakeholders, with governments, different levels of governments, and you address the issue, I do believe that it takes action. We have to keep going at it. We're not going to solve it in one day, obviously, because this is not an issue that has happened over one day. It's an accumulated concern. When you look at how many homes we build in Canada, for example, the population is always surpasses the homes that we provide. So having a whole budget that it really is focusing on a demographic, first of all, because it is a demographic issue. I think there are millennials and Gen Zs who have never been able to even see themselves as homeowners. We have to give them the same opportunity that every other Canadian has been able to receive and become homeowners. I think we pride ourselves on the quality of life in Canada, and all of those things happen through policy. As you said, it's a policy budget, but these policies are actually going to create tangible results.
Honestly, and it's just so great that we have fantastic representation at the table in Parliament in Ottawa, bringing the concerns of people here in London to the table. And I feel this is...
I've been talking about housing since I was on City Council, so I love that.
So this conversation has really, and I hope for our viewers as well, has made you feel optimistic about what's coming. So thank you so much for taking the time today, Arielle.
Thank you for chatting about budget and other things. Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks for having me.
So this was so fun. So viewers, please tune in again next week, and we'll be talking to some more people who are working so hard on behalf of people here in London to make the world a better place, just like my MP area. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you again next week for more LdnOnt TV.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university, so they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Happy National Volunteer Week.